What's up, guys? Welcome to Nimble Minds Talks of Self and Spirituality, where we talk about different philosophical perspectives as well as spiritual practices. And in this video, we are going to be grabbing some information from a book. This book is called Papers in African Psychology. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So this section of the book is called Negro Disharmony. Now, in a previous video I made, right, it previously in this book described the breakdown of the word Negro and things like that as it being a word that denotes the destruction of essence, right? Like the death of the essence of a people. And why does it say that? It's because during slavery and, the crusades and conquest, the attempt is, right, to completely get rid of the mentality, to completely get rid of the spirit, the soul, to completely get rid of a person's entire knowing of themselves. So then you have, in a sense, killed that person. You have, in a sense, got rid of that person, right? So here it talks about Negro disharmony. So I'm going to read this and then I'm going to go ahead and share my thoughts on it. A contaminant has affected the traditionally rhythmic black personality. Okay. And getting into this, right, I like to discuss black, African, things like that. I will also discuss why this is also another problem, but this is definitely a big problem when it comes to melanated people, black people, African people, right? So it's good to know. It's good to know. A contaminant has affected the traditionally rhythmic black personality. This contaminant emanated from contact and involvement with the arrhythmic Western personality. Nowhere is this contamination more evident than in the personality of the American Negro. This so-called Negro is an American creation, having been spawned from the loins of an insidious slavery system. This slavery system is notorious as the most humanely degrading method of exploitation and abuse in the history of civilized man. Its notoriety primarily stemmed from its long-term effect on the personalities of its victims. Unlike other people of African descent around the globe, the former American slave was thoroughly emptied of his traditions and prohibited from participation in those societal sustaining systems of shared cultural participation. A disharmony was inculcated, right, or inculcated in the slave personality. All societies develop and maintain their integrity as a people of shared origins with shared needs on the basis of their shared cultural experiences and traditions. In being emptied of these traditions, the American black or African has been left slightly out of harmony with himself and other people of African descent. All right, the sense of oneness and rhythm, which predominates in the traditional African worldview, has been almost thoroughly uprooted from the conscious personality of the Negro. Okay, so first, let me flip this page. Let's talk about this, okay? Right? The American slave was thoroughly emptied of his tradition and prohibited from participation. All right, so look, just basic knowledge about the transatlantic slave trade and things that happen, right? I'm going to focus on America, okay? So we understand that during slavery, right, and during these times, the slaves were not allowed to read. The slaves were not allowed. They weren't even considered people. They weren't even considered human, okay? People looked down on them, okay? It was a very dark time, okay? It was not a great time. That was just the reality of the situation, okay? If we just look at it for what the facts are, no emotion in it, no nothing, that's just what it was, okay? So what does that do to a people over time? Okay, it does, and it will weaken people. Okay, it will cause disharmony. Okay, it will cause distress. It will cause stress for people. Okay, and why is that important? Well, that is important when you understand the bigger picture of things, right? For example, think of one thing I do like to get into is because I really enjoy it, is music. That's one aspect that we can see that this belief of the quote unquote black, or whatever you want to say, melanin disharmony, whatever you want to say, right? Disharmony, a lot of it can stem from the ideologies that come from slavery, which is a Western type of thought, okay? So how does that make any sense? How can we apply that to music we see nowadays, right? Slavery was so long ago, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great question. So when it comes to the music we see nowadays, even music that I was previously into, right, especially rap music and things like that, there's always this type of disrespect towards another one black person towards another, one melanated person towards another, okay? When it comes to that type of music, usually, right, in America. It's about flexing, so to speak, on someone who has less. It's about, trying to trick people out of their positions, okay? It's about selling people these drugs, and I took this guy's woman and I did this thing to this person and I did that, okay? That is a symptom, okay, of one of these symptoms that can and has stemmed from that slave mentality, okay, where you always have to be in competition with someone else that looks just like you because you believe that there's just not enough for you. You believe that if you don't take, or try to get some of what this person has, and I put that in quotes, you don't try to get some of what this person has. I put that in quotes, okay? Because in another video, I talked about a point from the book Stoicism and the Art of Happiness, where it talked about how people assign value to things that intrinsically are indifferent, okay? So it does go into other things like that, but a lot of times you have this black on black stuff going on with hate against another person that looks just like you, okay? And you are tricked into believing you have to be better than them, right? You're tricked into believing you have to take from them. You're tricked into believing you have to degrade them. You're tricked into believing you have to do all these things to gain what? What to gain what and why? What is the reason? Okay? What is the reason? If you're pure evil, okay, whatever. But you're tricked into believing that you have to do these things in order to get in this certain position. And that's a whole nother ego conversation for another video, honestly. But that can stem from this slave mentality, that Negro disharmony, okay? So that is one way that it is pushed, or a couple of ways that it is pushed in music, okay? Even in lyrics, there are plenty of songs out there where it's lyrics like, hey, I'm the best, and although, right, it is music, okay, and you don't want to take everything seriously, yes, okay. A lot of times people are just on the beat, rapping, freestyling, whatever. Okay, whatever. But it does get to a point where you can see a trend. You can see that is a common lyric with some of these songs. I'm on top. No one can knock me off. And if they try, I ain't gonna stop. Like stuff like that. And it becomes like a type of conditioning when you hear it over and over again to where it gets to a point to where you believe you honestly have to manipulate someone else. You have to deceive someone else. You have to try to lie to someone else. You have to try to get over on someone else, okay? For what, okay? And that's because you fell into the programming. You fell into the lie to believe that there's not enough that you can do for yourself to get yourself in a certain position. You have to, you just have to be this deceitful, lying, disgusting type of person to get these things when that's not the truth at all, okay? And that can stem from that slavery type of mindset, okay? That Western type of mindset, okay? Where you have to lie, kill, steal, and destroy type of mindset, okay? To get things that you want, that you have an assigned value yourself to something that in the end is probably not that important. To end is probably not even that serious. And you did all that for what? For what? Okay. So that's what this gets into, and I really do like that topic. So let's see if there's anything else. Okay. So how does this connect to other aspects of society, right? Because me personally, I'm a melanated person, so I do talk from that perspective. But at least here in America, right, you can see it everywhere, though. There are a lot of other aspects you can see it, okay? Where that's if you're a person that has a friend group, okay? If you're a person, you're probably fortunate enough to where you didn't have to experience those things, okay? But you can see it whether you watch YouTube or actually in person, that people will talk behind people's back. People will really believe that they have to, do this person a certain type of way, lie on this person, make people believe certain things about a person, okay, just so they can better their own position, so they can, add to their own ego, okay? So they can look good in the eyes of who is what I'm asking. In the eyes of who, okay? Because let's connect this back. I always talk about temptations, okay? And the temptation stems from abstaining from the sins, right? And why would you even do that? So you can get closer to the spirit, so you can get closer to the soul, so you can get closer to what? Ultimately, God, okay? So if you're actually a person, right? And I'm taking this, I'm connecting these. If you're actually a person who believes in these things, but you're doing these things, actions speak louder than words, right? So really, you're just lying to yourself, because going back to Stoicism and the art of happiness, you done tricked yourself into believing, right, giving into the temptations of lying, deceit, stealing, killing, destroying what's intrinsically good, was intrinsically going to bring you some type of value that didn't even exist, okay? So now you done gave into the temptations, right? You done gave into a Western type of mentality, right? A slave type of mentality, right? Because these are the things you wanted, right? Because of the programming, okay? So that's one of the topics right there that I definitely wanted to get into, right? And hey, that's something you can see everywhere in society in America, okay? Whether that's on a job and that's somebody who wants a higher position. So now they got to go behind this person's back and go talk to whoever the manager or whatever the caste system is, the hierarchy system is in their job, and they got to go lie on this person, or, you know, just do all types of stuff to make somebody else look bad so they can look good, okay? That happens. I'm sure it happens more than it should, okay? Me personally, I'm not working or doing like nothing super crazy, so I wouldn't know, but I'm sure that happens more than it should, unfortunately. I'm sure it happens more than it should, okay? And even with friend groups, okay? Friend groups are probably notorious for this, whether that's guys or the ladies out there, okay? And there's talks that ladies do it more, and everybody does it. That's the thing, though, okay? You'll have groups of men out there who everybody's hanging out, having a good time. You're right, you think it's great. Next, you know, people leave. A couple of people leave. You stay behind. Next, you know, some people get to talking about some of the people that just left, and you're over there like, wait a minute. I thought we were just having a great conversation, right? I thought, hold on. I'm about to get into this, so let me actually put this book down, okay? Okay, let me put the book down. So you'll look, we're done with the book for right now, but you'll literally have situations like that where you'll be having a conversation. I'm on the men's side right now. You'll be having a conversation with a group of guys. You think everything's perfectly fine. Next thing you know, people get up and they leave, right? And you're still there with a couple guys. Next, you know, there's a few people there that start talking crazy about the people that were just there. And you're over there like, wait a minute. We were just having a perfectly fine time. I thought they were cool. And now you're over here saying all this crazy stuff about this person. And that really shows a lot about the person who's ever saying that, okay? It shows a lot about their character. Okay, and that's why I'm connecting this, and I'm stemming it back from that slave mentality, okay? Yes, this is a black, yes, this can be a melanated problem. Yes, especially because it can be pushed with the agenda. That's why it can be dangerous, okay? But going beyond that, okay, to people in general, okay, this is what it looks like. This is what it will look like. Okay, now you have to make that decision. Okay, we talked about being honest with yourself in the video I just made. Now you have to be honest with yourself. Are you going to engage in that gossip? Are you going to be a person who now goes behind those very same people's back who you were just smiling at? Okay, who you were just, you know, having a great time with, right? Quote unquote, because if it was such a great time, you wouldn't be talking behind their back as if it wasn't, because now you're lying. So now you have to make a decision. Are you going to be that person? Or are you going to say, you know what? We were just hanging out, right? We were just having, I'm not going to be that person today, okay? And once again, it's a lot easier said than done, okay? A lot of things I talk about, most people would rather just talk about it and never do anything. And most people would rather not do anything and just talk about it, okay? So once again, when I say these things in this video, I don't just say it because I'm saying it. It's because I actually do these things. I'm actually not out here gossiping, okay? I'm actually not out here going behind people's back talking crazy about people, okay? I'm actually not doing these things, okay? I'm actually not giving into temptations, okay? I'm abstaining from the lust, okay? I'm not giving into the greed. I'm not giving into the gluttony. I have put the drink down, the blunt. I have done these things. That's why, and I'm currently doing these things. That's why I'm speaking so passionately about these things, because it does have a positive impact and it can help you, okay? But now, let's get back to it. And let's go to the woman side of this, okay? Because hey, it happens over there too, okay? You'll be hanging out with a group of girls, a group of women, right? Everything's all chill, right? You got the female energy and stuff, the woman energy, you having a good time. Look at me, I got the ladies. Like, you know what I'm saying? You feeling good. Next thing you know, one or two women leave. Okay, one or two women leave. It's still cool, vibes still chill. Whoa, you didn't like her hair. She got a what? Her feet, what? She wear this size, bro. What? Her dress, what? She bought it from here, and now you're. All that stuff happens, okay? Now they're talking bad about the woman they were just hanging out with, talking about how they don't like her hairstyle, talking about how they don't like the shoes she's wearing, talking about she's cheap, talking about she's that, talking about she's weak, she's meat, she's all this stuff, and they were just smiling, laughing. They were just partying it up, right? But now these same women, you're talking like they're the worst thing that has ever happened since capitalism. You're talking like they're the worst thing that has ever happened since, you know what I'm saying, the stuff we got now. You're talking like they're the worst thing that has ever happened. And you were just smiling with them. You were just laughing with them. You were just talking with them, okay? So once again, if you're the person in that situation, now you have a decision to make. Are you going to stay? And even if you stay, are you going to obey the temptation? Are you going to obey the deceit? Are you going to obey the talking down on your peers? Are you going to obey that? Are you going to be the person that's like, yeah, you know what? I agree. Her hair was looking crazy. I agree. I don't know what kind of shoes those are. I don't know where she got those, right? I don't know what kind of clothes she was wearing. Her face is kind of weird, right? Like, are you going to be that person? And on the man's side, are you going to be that person, right? Are you really going to be that guy, right? On the man's side, you know what? He is kind of weird. You know what? His hair is kind of messed up. You know what? I don't like this about him, or I don't like whatever it is, bro. That's just stuff I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's, conversation that people have, they go more in depth about the hating. Like there's probably professional haters out here that really know what to say. I don't, okay? But that's the stuff that happens, okay? And that can be deeper than just this slave mentality, okay? Although that is where this video started, and that is how we got to this conversation, okay? Is that slave mentality, that always having to one up the next person that looks just like you, but on a bigger scale, on the scale of people, on the scale of humans that exist in this world, okay? That is an issue that you will see that is prevalent, okay? And once again, you're going to have to make that decision and be like, you know what? I do not want to be that person. I am not going to talk down on somebody I was just hanging out with, bro. I'm not going to, and then they're not even there to defend themselves about it, right? They're not even there to at least give their own opinion about it, right? No, I'm not going to be that person. You got to make a decision right there. Or maybe you are that person, because there's people out here who are just like that, okay? Because once again, once it comes to giving into temptation and saying no to these things, the hard truth is, it's not for everybody. The truth is, there are going to be people who say what? It is what it is, and pick the bottle back up. There are going to be people who say what? It is what it is, and pick the blunt back up. And, even worse than that, there are going to be people who say it is what it is and continue to gossip. There are going to be people who say it is what it is and continue to give into the drama. There are going to be people who say it is what it is and continue to give into the lying, the deceit, the stealing, the killing, the destroying. There's going to be people who say it is what it is and continue down that path. That is the truth. That's the hard truth. So when you make that decision for you, after understanding the hard truth, you're going to have to understand what you have to do. Okay? Maybe now you can't hang out with these people. Maybe now you can't be around these people all the time because you understand where their heart is. You understand where their spirit, their soul really is, okay? You understand that these people don't have good intentions, man. These people will rather lie. These people will rather spy. These people will rather do all these stuff than to be honest with themselves and be like, you know what? I'm going to be better, okay? That's the hard truth, okay? The truth is, when you start understanding how things really go down, you're going to have to make a decision if you want to be around. That's the truth because, hey, it's not for everybody. People are going to fail. People are going to not be able to stop the lying. People are not going to be able to stop the deceit, stop the lying, all this stuff. That is the hard truth, okay? And people are going to say, guess what? Hold up. This video is going longer than expected, okay? So there's going to be a cut in the audio right here. I'm going to extend this so I can keep talking, and then we'll get back into it. Okay, so now we are back, and let me go ahead and continue with this, right? Once again, there are going to be people, right? The two sides. And the hard truth about this is it may be people you know. It may be people that's close. That's the hardest part about this is that once you know, you're going to have to make a decision if you want to go. That's the hard truth, okay? It's going to be people that say what? It is what it is and pick up the bottle. It's going to be people who say it is what it is and pick back up the blunt. Okay, not the saying to never drink, never smoke. Okay, I'm not, listen. But there's going to be people who say it is what it is and continue the deceit. It's going to be people who say it is what it is and continue the gossip. It's going to be people who say it is what it is and continue to try to get over on somebody when the truth is you can't get over on God. You can't get over on the spirit. You can't get over on the soul because you just lying to yourself. That's all you're doing. But there's going to be people who say it is what it is and continue to give into the temptations, continue to give into more than just the 7 deadly sins, okay? They just continue to keep doing all that stuff. But then the positive part of that is that there's going to be people who say, hey, it is what it is. I'm going to be better. It is what it is. I take a break from the drink. It is what it is. I take a break from the blunt. It is what it is. I ain't gonna lie. It is what it is. I'm tired of the spying. It is what it is. I'm tired of the deceit. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm tired of the deceit. It is what it is. I'm tired of these other things. There's going to be people out there who do make the positive decision, the right decision, and say, you know what? I am going to change. Okay? That is the positive part. That is the good part of this, okay? There are people out there who are going to say it is what it is and actually better themselves. There are going to be people who say it is what it is, and now they are no longer controlled by the temptations, okay? They're guided by the spirit, the soul. There are going to be people who say it is what it is and do better for themselves, okay? There are going to be people who say it is what it is and now start to better their mentality, start to better their physicality, start to better who they are as a person, start to better their spirit and their connection to the source. There will be people who do that. And that is the great thing. That is the beautiful thing. That's the thing that I love, okay? But understand, whoever's watching, whoever's listening, that you're going to have to understand just because you make the decision to change, just because you make the decision to withhold and, withstand these temptations out there, because the temptations are heavy, okay? It's hard when you have the chance to be around, beautiful women, okay? And then one of them may want to, be with you, right? Okay? And then now y'all sleeping together, right? It's hard not to have a child and give into it, okay? That may be difficult. Okay, this stuff ain't easy. I'm not just talking about this stuff because it's supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. But understand that, okay? It's going to be difficult. And you're going to have to accept that just because you want to make the change, just because you don't want to stay the same, just because you want to actually adjust your lifestyle. And not to say it makes you better, because it doesn't. It's just something you're going to do differently, okay? But people are going to talk about it. People are going to start coming after you. People are going to start hating. People are going to start trying to make it seem like something is not, because you were willing to put in the work to change. Okay? And understand, just because you are does not mean anybody else is obligated to. That's what you have to understand. It does not make you better. Humble yourself. It does not make you anything above anybody else, because you can't get above God. It don't make you anything above anything, all right? Is you just doing something different. But you have to understand, People are not obligated to change with you. People are not obligated to do better when it comes to these temptations just because you are. Okay? People are not obligated to do better because of these things just because you are. Okay? And that may be something that's hard to accept, but it is what it is. You cannot control people, nor should you want to. Okay? But once you make that decision to do better, understand you're probably going to have to separate yourself. You're probably going to have to just do things that are a little bit different because you don't want to do those things anymore. Okay? And that's okay. That's okay. All right. So before I end this video, we will go through a recap and we will go through each, topic and how we got to this point, and we will wrap it up. Okay. So where did we start? We started with papers in African psychology before I did put the book down and I started getting into it, right? We started with papers in African psychology on Negro disharmony. And we talked about what? We talked about slavery. We talked about the history of it in America and how there was a systematic goal in mind. There was a systematic plan in mind to break down the Negro, because Negro can mean what? Negro can mean what? Negro can mean a dead substance. It can mean a dead soul. Okay, and that is the attempt to what? Take away the spirit, take away the soul, take away the being, the knowing of who someone is, so they don't even have the ability to understand who they are and they can't operate anymore. A psychological death, which is a swift death. Okay, that's what that is. Okay, so we talked about that. We talked about how from that we get some points where it shows itself in rap music, although there are other aspects. I focused on the music because I really enjoy music. There are aspects in music where we have this competition continue, where we have people thinking that they have to turn to Captain Ginyu. We have this competition continue and have people think they have to turn to Captain Ginyu and commit a switch body change so they can get some extra change, if you get what I'm saying. We got people trying to turn to Captain Ginyu to switch body change so they can get a little extra change, if you even get what I'm saying. Anyway, let's get back to it. What I'm saying is, it goes into the music. It goes to where people, now you see it in the lyrics. I'm the best this, I'm the best that. Nobody can top me. Nobody can top this, that. That's what it gets into, okay? And it continues to where people think they have to steal. People think they have to take. People have to think they have to do these things to other people who look just like them, okay? When they really don't. They just trick themselves into believing they do, okay? We talked about that. Okay. And then what else did we talk about? Well, then we put the book down. Then we got into what? The overall picture. Okay. Although slavery is very serious, it had its mental, genetic, implications. We got into the bigger picture, which is people. Okay. Human beings on this earth in general, and the areas that you can see that this is still prevalent. And what areas are those prevalent in Nimble Minds? Well, what did we talk about? We talked about what? We talked about groups. We talked about friend groups, okay? That's the main aspect that we focused on, okay? We talked about on the job. That's one of the aspects that we focused on, okay? We talked about the friend groups. What? First, we talked about the male side. How there's going to be times where you're hanging out with your male buddies. You're hanging out with your men buddies. You're hanging out with your guys, right? And you're having a good time, right? It's supposed to be a good time. A couple people leave here and there. 1 here, 2 there, 3 here, 4 there, 5 here, 6 there. Next thing you know, the tone starts to change. Hey. You heard such and such did this. You heard such and such is wearing this. You heard such and such look like this. Whoa. Now you got to make an opportunity. Is this something you want to do, or is this something you're going to miss? That's what you're going to have to do. You have to make you're going to have to make a decision. Okay. Is this the opportunity you want to take to get into this, or no, you don't want to do this anymore. You don't want to be deceitful. You don't want to be lying behind these people's back, knowing darn well you were just smiling in their face, having a good time in their face. But now all of a sudden it looked like there ain't no trace of that smile anymore. Okay. So we talked about the man side. Now, what else? There's the woman side of that, okay? We talked about how you might be a guy hanging out with some women, a group of women, and next thing you know, one woman leave here, 2 women leave there, 3 women leave here, 4 women leave there, right? And there's still the good vibes. Next thing you know, she's talking about, did you see her hair? Do you see her shoes? Do you see her clothes she got from Didi's Discount? You feel me? If you know, you know. Do you see the clothes she got from here? Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, then people start talking crazy, and you're like, wait a minute. I don't know if I want to be engaged in this, okay? I don't know if I want to give into the temptations. I don't know if I want to give into the deceit. I don't know if I want to give into the lying right now. So you're going to have to make that decision, okay? That's where you're going to be at, right? So we talked about that. So once again, we talked about the male side. Then we talked about the female side. Then where else did we go from the conversation from there, okay? We also talked about on the job. We talked about how there's going to be situations where people go behind your back. They go to whatever the hierarchical system is in your job, right? The manager, the boss, they go behind your back and they're like, hey, this person did this and that. So they can get some extra change, right? So they can get a better position, okay? So they can get, feed their ego, okay? We talked about that, Okay. That's where we also went from that. And then what? Where do we go from that? Then we went into what? Temptation, which is the main topic on this channel. We went into the temptations and how what? How this can affect the temptations, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. You're tempted to lie. You're tempted to be deceitful. You're tempted to go behind people's back. You're tempted to do all these things, okay? And we also talked about what? The hard truth. And what was one of the hard truths we talked about? It ain't for everybody. That's one of the hard truths we talked about. It ain't for everybody. There's going to be people who say what? It is what it is, and go pick up that drink. There's going to be people who say what? It is what it is, go pick up that blunt. There's going to be people who say what? It is what it is, continue to lie. There's going to be people who say what? It is what it is, continue to deceive. There's going to be people who say what? It is what it is, and continue to give into the temptations, okay? And then we talked about what? There's a positive side to that, though. Although, yes, those can be things that are looked at as negative, which is actually a positive because it shows you where people are at and where you need to be. But there's a positive side to that. And what is that positive side? The positive side is there are going to be people who say it is what it is and do what? Put the drink down. Take a break from the drink. Take a break from the blunt. There's going to be people who say what? It is what it is, and to continue to, or discontinue the subscription to lying. There's going to be people who say it is what it is and discontinue the deceit. There's going to be people who say it is what it is and decide not to go behind people's back and talk smack. There's going to be people who say it is what it is and actually do better. Okay. And what else did we talk about? Hey, these things are not supposed to be easy. It's way easier said than done. And we also talked about most people would rather just talk about it and not do anything. We talked about most people would rather not do anything and just talk about it. This is what we talked about. Okay. So at the end of the day, only you know where you're at. Okay. And you're going to have to make the decision. And that's going to be that at the end of the day. Okay. You still have to understand, even in knowing these things, it is a process. It's not going to be a quick change. It's not going to be just like that. It will take time, where that's a couple of months, some years, depending on who you are. It's going to take some time for you to actually develop habits, for you to actually develop routines that will prevent you from giving into these things that are temptation, that are these desires to do these things, okay, where ultimately you're just lying to yourself. That's all that is. But only you will be able to make that decision, okay? So look, with that being said, that is the video, okay? Hope whoever's watching, whoever's listening was able to take some from this video to where they could apply it into any aspect of their life, to where they could somehow, have a positive change, do a little bit better, okay? With that being said, that is the video. We also talked about, hey, don't give into those temptations. It's going to be difficult. It's not supposed to be easy. And the hard truth is, it's not going to be everybody. There are going to be people who are just going to, at the end of the day, they're going to decide to give into those temptations. At the end of the day, they're going to just keep doing what they're doing. And hey, you have to make that decision for you. And that's where it gets difficult, because there's going to be some people close to you. There's going to be some friends. There's going to be some family. There's going to be some people you may even know that are just going to continue to do these things. And you know. But you can make that change for you. And you can be better. All right. With that being said, that is the video. All right. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.